Hey, y'all, it's Jeff Risdon from the Detroit Lions podcast and Lions Wire. And since it's the bye week, thought it was a good time to do another update of the mailbag. So I asked the Slack for some questions. Patreon Slack returned with some great ones. So we're going to try to answer as many of those as we can in an expedited amount of time. So let's go. Great questions, by the way. Put the call out on, I think it was Wednesday night. I'm recording this, by the way, on Thursday. It is October 3rd. I am leaving for a family trip type thing tomorrow. So you'll probably see this, and I won't even be able to answer any questions about it. So apologies on that. But the bye week worked out at a great time for me and my family personally. So we're taking care of some business. And that'll be nice to get away from a little bit, even though the Lions are, and that Monday night thing was buzzing. That was a great win. It's a great win. Felt good. The questions, by the way, are more overarching over the first 4 weeks and maybe the rest of the season. That was what I requested. I didn't want to do anything specifically on the Seahawks game, which I thought was outstanding. We'll get more into that as we get back into things late next week and get ready for Dallas. We're going to crush the Cowboys. First question from Carter Bright. Biggest player-related surprise from the season so far? It's a good question. Good starting point. Gotta mute the phone, too. The whistle. Have some unexpected interruptions there. Best, I will say, I think the emergence of Jack Campbell is a real force on the inside of the linebacker. He's still not great in coverage, but I think the way that he has adapted to taking over the defense, setting everything up, having the green dot, being in charge, and being a demon against the run, it shouldn't really be a surprise, but I think how quickly he's taken to it and how well it's working already, that does surprise me a little bit. He's been great. Again, coverage, not so much, but you're asking for a whole lot if you're asking for, if you get the coverage from him that he gives, in the run defense commensurate with it, you've got an all-pro player. So Jack Campbell's been a lot of fun. As far as a disappointment surprise, because that's surprises aren't always happy, unfortunately. I will say that the early season usage of Sam Laporta and also David Montgomery has not been optimal. And I think that's something that Ben Johnson's going to have to work on. Thought he tried to explain away Sam Laporta a little bit, and I wasn't real satisfied with his answer. And David Montgomery just disappears for way too long in games. I know the offense is great. I know they're winning. Even the Seattle game, he went 6 drives in a row without even playing. That can't happen. He's too good for that. So they got to figure something out there. But that's my surprise, because I thought there would be an easier balance and workload for all those guys. Question, Carter. From Nicholas K. Is it time to end the James Houston experiment? There's a lot more to the question. I will just say yes. Yes, it is time. He had every opportunity with when Marcus Davenport was out in week 2, and then again in week 4, where you've got a situation where you're rushing against tackles that don't handle speed well, and he got his ass thrown to the ground repeatedly. Aside from that, 3 offsides penalties in 14 snaps. Nope. And I will harken back, and this is something that I talked with Chris and Ash about at the roster cutdown time, and it was an epiphany for me because it was asked of me by somebody who covers another football team. Actually, it was the Seahawks. Somebody who covers the Seahawks for a living, and he asked me what was going on with James Houston, if I thought he was going to get cut, and I said maybe, he's definitely on the bubble. And then so he was trying to fish for okay. Can we maybe trade for him? because at that point they thought they had a need for him. And they're like, let me ask you this, Jeff. And he said, if this regime knew today or knew then what they know today, would they have ever drafted him? And I had thought about it like, no, like, hell no, they wouldn't. Like, he's completely not what they want in a player. And that really struck me because it was something that I hadn't thought of it in that context before. And I thought they were going to give him another shot this year. I thought he had a golden opportunity in the 2 weeks where he's been given reps. Now, granted, he only earned 3 against Tampa Bay. But we've been trying to tell you, those of us who watched the practices all summer, it just wasn't there. And it's pretty apparent that it's not there. And that he's not getting them in practice either. Yeah, it's time. If the other team wants to give him a conditional 6th, maybe a 7th, just to get it, or as part of a sweetener of a bigger deal, which probably doesn't exist. Yeah, it's time. He doesn't fit. Sorry. Injuries kill people, man. That's kill careers. That's unfortunate, that it's come to that. But he just doesn't fit what they want at the position anymore. Kind of never did, but he made it work for a little bit. But remember fondly 2022, the last few games, because it was a special time. But beyond that, he's never really looked like an NFL player. And, it's going to be one of those things that you talk about. We're like remember, he's like Lynn Sanity, like Jeremy Lin, except Lin actually learned how to play a little bit and, became a pretty solid contributor for a while. That just hasn't happened with James Houston. Enough on that. Okay, this is sort of a related question, in a way, from Edmark. The last couple of years, a player has come out of nowhere and dominated after the halfway point. And he points out that it's James Houston in 2022 and Ifeatu Melifonwu last year. Is there anyone that has the potential to do that the same this year? Tim Patrick, maybe? I wouldn't say that he's come from out of nowhere because there was a big deal made about him signing. But yeah, he's starting to emerge. He's clearly wide receiver 3. He's shown that he can play. He's shown that he can contribute. So maybe Tim Patrick's the answer. If you want to go a little bit more obscure, more deeper, go with Coyote Alshika. Because the way he played on Monday night against Seattle, that's a guy who can play. Like, period. Doesn't need to be a backup. Like, that guy can start. I know his PFF grade wasn't great. I have some real disagreements with PFF grades from that entire game, which I could probably fill up a full episode with. And we'll probably deal with that as we get closer to the next game when we're talking about some of the things. But Alshika looked very good, especially in the run game. And I'm encouraged by him as a guy who has been in the system for a while and has always sort of just floated around. Like, if they needed a backup right tackle, he's your guy. That's Colby Sorstel. Into the left guard, right guard. Like, he can fill in so many different places. And I think the focus on him playing just guard this offseason has really helped him. He looked very good the other night. I have zero complaints about what I saw from Coyote Alshika the other night. So he's probably your best bet. And again, with the line the way it is, with Ragnow being injured, I thought Glasgow played very well at center overall. I thought that was a good first game for him in the pivot. Didn't exactly have a high degree of difficulty against Seattle's backups, but you got to play what's in front of you, and he did a good job of playing it. So I feel less completely stressed out by the lack of proven offensive line depth because I thought Yode played a good game. So he would be my roundabout answer for that. All right, this is a good one from Austin. Are there any real tangible chances of the Lions looking for another player, hopefully a pass rusher in parentheses, before the trade deadline this season? And if so, do you know anybody that would likely be available for a realistic price the Lions would pay? Okay. The last sentence wipes out anybody you've heard of, basically. Devontae Adams is going on. Not going to happen. Max Crosby is not available. Even if he was available, It's not going to happen. If the Raiders aren't trading him, I don't understand why people can't figure that out. Like, they think they're in the playoff race. They absolutely do. Chris, I did a little bit on it last week, and it's still a salient point. Until he's traded, he's a Raider. It's pass rushers are tough this year because the guys who are available are people like James Houston, we can't use. And part of that is because the Lions want a very specific type of pass rusher. They want power to speed, they want length, they want the ability to play the run on the way to the passer. That's not your typical sexy pass rusher. The name Trey Hendrickson comes up a lot from Cincinnati. And I get that one. And he's an interesting fit because he has experience. He started out in New Orleans, has experience playing with or under AG. And if the Bengals are 1-6, sure, you call him. You see what happens. He's certainly an interesting cat. Pass rush sizzle, it's there. Yeah, you know that. I mean, he would be a very interesting fit for what we're looking for in Detroit. What would it cost to get him? 3rd round pick in 2025? Oh, wait. We don't have one of those. It's Giovanni Manu. He's already on the roster. And this is the other hard part about making a trade this year specifically for a targeted player. Already don't have a 3rd round pick. Do you really want Brad Holmes to use what he's been best at, which is selecting players in the draft, and go after a guy that you're going to rent for 8 weeks, 10 weeks, that might put you over the top? I will tell you this, at pass rusher, the Lions are still pretty darn pleased with Josh Paschal. I know it. Look, I know he's not making a dent on the stat sheet, other than his butt being on the ground. He's not getting the quarterback. I know they like Levi Onwuzurike. Levi's playing great, by the way. I think he's done a very good job this season as the crush the can end opposite Hutch, who's having a Defensive Player of the Year. He was just before I started recording this. Actually, he got named the Defensive Player of the Month, and he deserved it. Congrats, Eden. You earned it. You are the NFL leader in sacks and QB pressures. And as my guy Billy Rossetti is writing up for Lions Wires right now, he has more pressures over the first 4 weeks than any player ever. Ever. So they're not desperate for pass rush. They're not as desperate, I think, as a lot of fans would want them to be. So no, I don't think they're going to be making a trade. I think you're looking at another trade level this year. Remember last year their move? DPJ came in, wide receiver 4, caught a couple of key passes down the stretch, but all in all was not a impact moving talent. And I will tell you, this team doesn't need that. And by the way, this team is aware they don't need that. They don't think they do. They certainly are not in the market for, let's say the Cowboys implode and Micah Parsons becomes available, which is absurd, but I mean, if we beat them the way I think we will, and they're 2-5, 2-6, and Jerry gets anxious, you never know. First rule of sales, you don't ask, you don't get. You got to ask. Not that they would ask about Micah Parsons for some off-field lingering reasons there. In the past, he's not their type of guy, but he's a hell of a player. Yeah, I just don't see that being something that's in the cards for better and for worse. So I would not look. I know it's fun to talk about, the Madden style trades and all that, but it's not a reality that Brad Holmes is in. It's just not. Sorry. Couple other questions here. This is a good one from Jerry. If you had to give quarter season coaching grades, what are your grades for Campbell, Johnson, and Glenn so far? I'm going to I'll start with AG because I think AG's done a great job. And specifically in the Seattle game and the Arizona game, where he switched his coverages because it played better to the way that the players in the game were playing. And it negatively impacted the offenses that they were going against. I think that's good coaching. Bringing the corners up closer and not giving the free reign, knowing that your pass rush with Hutch and Levi and Aline is going to get there, it worked. And it's worked pretty darn well all season. I do think that he resorted to zone a little bit too much, especially in the Tampa game, and it cost them. But AG, man, give AG an A-. So I think he's doing a really good job with the personnel that he's got. I really do. That's a little surprising. What biggest surprise? AG proving that everybody who made the argument that he just didn't have the talent to coach an effective defense, he's kind of validating that. I think he's having a very strong start to the season. Ben Johnson, kind of going the other direction. He's overthinking things too often. Now, Seattle game was a return to form for him. And I hope that it sticks that way because that was fun. But I think his play calling, I think his sense for when to call certain plays isn't great this year. I think his continual, he just forgets that David Montgomery exists for extended periods of time in games. I think that's wrong. Look, I know it's not really hurting him all that much, and Jahmyr Gibbs, independent of Jahmyr Gibbs being a fantastic option in and of his own right, you gotta get Monty into the game more. You just find a way. You're a creative genius, Ben Johnson. Find a way to get them both on the field at the same time. Did a little bit this summer. We saw it in practice. Defense had no clue how to handle it. Maybe show some of that in the game. Just so Ben, because Ben still does design great plays. I don't think that he sequences or calls them all that well, but I think the play design and schematics are exceptional. So, and he's responsible for most of that. So I'll say a B-, C+ relative to expectations, probably closer to a C+. But going up. Dan. Oh boy. He's been really good except at the end of half and end of game situations. He has really struggled in that realm and has not gotten better. Beyond those, I think his management of the team, I think his management of his assistant coaches is as good as any coach in the NFL. I think his ability to motivate his team, to keep them focused and keep them charging for the same goal, not getting too full of themselves, but after a win, I think it's coach of the year level stuff. So I'd say probably a B+ for Dame. He's having a good year. Again, things to work on. The situation, the end of the first half in Seattle and Arizona, both of them bugged me. And those are not the only times, and I'm sure I'm not the only one either. But beyond that, I think he's doing a great job. And I think some of that is also Ben Johnson a little bit. The Seattle one, I don't think they could figure out if they were trying to score or if they were trying to run out the clock, and they did neither. That's something that I think they can do better. And that's where I hope that the Dan self-scouts, as he talked about in his last press conference. From Bill, any possible call-ups from the practice squad? Yeah, there's a few. And the big one will be at end, or Sam linebacker. So still trying to replace Derek Barnes and Marcus Davenport. First week, we saw Trevor Nowatzki get a little bit of run, not a lot. I think he had 8 snaps, something like that. We saw Rodrigo slide in there a little bit in that third linebacker role. We'll see what sticks with that. But Isaac Ukwu was electrifying all summer. He was what the James Houston sycophants really desperately want James Houston to become again. A speed to power guy that can bend around the edge, that can beat a tackle, that can get under him, but can also run through him if he needs to and cross him. That's not something that we've seen from James Houston lately, but Isaac Ukwu did that very well this summer. And I thought he earned a spot on the team. So I would like to see what he can do. I'm very curious about Mitchell Agude and his progress in the Sam linebacker role that they've been trying to groom him into since he realized that he wasn't going to make the team as an edge. Let's see where he's at. We don't get to watch practices anymore. We get to see like 15 minutes of opening, and I'm not even over there for all but like 2 of them. I haven't been there. So let's see what he's got. If he shows the ability to rush the passer from a stand-up position and not get killed in coverage and in run defense, you could see him come up. As far as like the other guys, like they've promoted so many people already. I mean, Tim Patrick, Allen Robinson, Kyle Pecco, they're all on the roster already. So that's, yeah, you're kind of it there. They do have running back depth in case they need it. I mean, Sione Vaki's not even touching the ball ever on offense, so they're not really in need there. But you know, Jamar Jefferson still exists. I don't really see any others. Maybe at second in the secondary. I mean, yeah, not unless they're desperate, and hopefully they don't get that way. Let's hope. All right. I don't know what was the question here. I'm not reading that. Y'all are funny. All right. Oh, good question from Jerry here. How much of the defensive struggles from the Seattle game do you attribute to such a high snap count? I will add in, they played 90, but with penalties included, they played 99 snaps of defense. That's the most by any team all year in a regulation game. I believe it's also overtime. I haven't actually looked that up. But I know in a regulation game, that's the most. Versus any actual concerns with the team learning how to attack the defense. I will say, first off, Seattle's a fantastic offense. That's a very good football team. DK Metcalf, Todd Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. I think their running back tandem is very good. I think it's underappreciated around the league. Offensive line, they were missing their right tackle, but I think other than that, I think they played pretty darn well. Like that, and Geno Smith. Geno's a good quarterback, man. It pains me when Lions fans dog on Geno. So I'm like, all he's ever done is beat our ass. Like, that's pretty good. I know you don't expect him to be good. He's a really good quarterback, folks. He really is. He is their version of Jared Goff. Quarterback. Like, no disrespect for him whatsoever. So I think that's part of why they scored 29 points. Well, they scored 27. Sure, Goff scored 2 out of weird. That safety. Sorry. I almost digressed there. That was just weird. Like, why? Ben Johnson, what's your plan? Do you have a plan? Why is that your plan? Questions I wanted to ask him, but it's the bye week, so. We won. Happy questions, better than angry questions after a loss. I think that's why the defense struggled relative to the other games against Seattle. That's a really damn good football team, and we could be seeing them in January again. They've had our number. It was great to beat them. It was great to hold them to just 29 points in the end, quite frankly. Defense did make some plays. Thank God for Kirby. I thought the man coverage on the outside was about as good as you can be with the way that the officials were letting them play. Yeah, I'm I'm not worried about the 29 because I sort of expected that. I was more impressed that the Lions got the 42 and how they got the 42. So I'm feeling really good about that. That's one of the most complete games from both sides. And again, I know they gave up a lot of points. Most complete games I've seen from both sides of the ball. Complimentary football, as Dan likes to call it, in a long time. That's one of the best ones we've seen from the Lions. And I'm very happy about that one. Let's see. This one is more about Davenport Hendrickson replacing type thing for Bat D. Yeah, we kind of covered that a little bit. Here's a good one from Jay. Actually, there's two questions in a row that are both about Christian Mahogany. With Christian Mahogany coming back to practice very soon, how do you see the Lions shuffling the line, if at all? And how close is he to being an actual viable backup? We've barely seen him. He was at rookie minicamp, and he was at minicamp. And I will say that at minicamp, he looked like a guy who hadn't played in the NFL yet. He was learning. He's got to get the quickness down. Physically, I just hope that he's able to get us back to full strength, because where he's at his best is just snow plowing the dude in front of him in the run game. But also, he's an aggressive, take it to you pass protector, which is a little unusual. But Hank Fraley played that way when he played, so I think there's hope that can translate very quickly. As far as this year, I don't know, man. Like, you're not going to find a bigger Christian Mahogany draft fan than me. I kind of hope he doesn't play, honestly. I hope that this is sort of a redshirt year for him to just get healthy, get well, get enough practice in where he can go into next summer and aim to be guard 3. Maybe guard 2. We'll see. Yeah, Kevin Zeitler's a one and done, looks like. By the way, Zeitler has been outstanding after the first week when there were a lot of rumblings about, oh my God, what have we done? This guy's not good. He's old. He looks like he's been fantastic the last 3 weeks. Arguably the best right guard in football the last 2 weeks. Got to let those things play sometimes, folks. But yeah, he is in fact a 1-year free agent. I mean, it would be great if he could challenge for a starting position next year. Based on him missing everything that he has so far, that's probably a little optimistic, but he has the skill, he has the talent. I 100% believe that. But I don't think we're going to see much from him in 2024, just because that's, it is the way it is. And by the way, we talked about it a little bit earlier, Yode Aoshika played pretty darn well. Let's hope that he can sustain that, because that's there. And they also have Michael Neese in there, who I know had a very good summer and earned his spot on the team. So they're not desperate to get him into the mix. I think he's going to be one of those where they're not going to activate him until they have to, which is, 4 weeks? So week 7, week 8? I can't keep track of the weeks. Whatever it is, I think they'll get it. And the corollary question also came from Zach. After it is also on Bromar, Broderick Martin, when he will come back. Sounds like he is not going to be ready to begin practicing when they get back, which is, as I said, again, this is Thursday. All the Lions players are gone. Nobody's there until Monday when they have their first practice, and then next week is like just a normal week. So it's one of those things where they're trying to get him to see maybe if they can start his return clock next Friday, just to see. But that's based on what I've heard about his condition. That's probably on the optimistic side. And I will also say that I just heard a little bit more about Iffy the other day. He's on IR now. It's probably not going to see him before Thanksgiving at the earliest, is what I was told. So, hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, because they can use him. They can absolutely use what he gave at the end of last year. Although Brandon Joseph played okay in Seattle. Be happy with that. Yeah. All right. Chris asked a question. I got to answer. What is your favorite cocktail and why is it from Runners? Oh, Chris. we've had rum runners together and enjoyed those. And we've had a lot of weird cocktails at Wet Willie's in Mobile. I've enjoyed those. My personal favorite cocktail, however, well, there's two of them. I like a Paloma. Love a good Paloma, and or a Greyhound. But those are. It's increasingly difficult to find pure white grapefruit juice. For whatever reason, I don't know. It's hard to find a white grapefruit. I live in Michigan. I look for them every time I go to the store, wherever I go. Cannot find white grapefruit anywhere. Love them. Pink ones are okay, but they're too sweet. I want the sour, especially in the cocktail. But I'm also a massive Caipirinha fan, and I have switched to that being my drink of choice. Not every place has cachaça, and if it's made with just like spiced rum, it's different. It's not the same. I want the cachaça, but yeah, that's my jam now. All right, good. We'll wrap up on this one, I think. Well, you know what? There's a couple more good questions that rolled in as I'm doing this. From Randall, I'll throw this in. What do you think will be their biggest change, player or scheme, from their self-scout? That's a great question. I think they're going to try to be more aggressive on offense throughout the game. I think there are too many possessions that I don't want to say waste, but where I think that the end game isn't necessarily the points on the board versus Ben Johnson trying to set up other things. And I think that has almost bitten them twice this season. Just go out and score, man. Let it all out there. You've got the weaponry. You've got the line to do it. You've got the field general and Jared Goff playing fantastic football. Like, just go. Don't do these holdback drives where it's like, okay, well, we're going to punt on this drive because we're going to run a couple of concepts in this one that will set things up for later. Don't do that. Just go. Thrive. Please. That's what I hope they find. The other thing, I also think that they will never allow a kickoff return again. I think they will just have Jake Bates kick it. Dude, boot it through the uprights if you can, because the kickoff coverage hasn't been great. And giving the ball up at the 30 is better than giving it up at the 38, which usually happens. Yeah, the kickoff thing just doesn't. They got to move that. They got to move that line to the 35. Where if it's a touchback, it's a 35. Otherwise, nobody's ever going to return it. There's no point. Okay. Last question on this. What impact has Carlton Davis had on the team? This is from Grant. Carlton has been a very good veteran mentor and teacher in the room for the young guys. Terrion, Rakestraw, even Amit coming in. Although he's not that young, I think Davis's professionalism and the way that he carries himself and the way that he holds himself accountable, I think has been very good. He's a very confident guy. He's much more outwardly confident and outwardly like willing to mentor than Cam Sutton was, aside from the on-field play differences. Cam was a good dude when he was here, until he wasn't. But he's a different cat. And I think Carlton fits in better with the mix that they've got this year specifically. So I think that's been very good. I thought he played a great game against Seattle. I think the officials held him back from being even better. He is going to give up big plays from time to time because he's a press man corner that doesn't have exceptional speed. When you get beat off your release and good receivers are going to win against everybody, they win against Sauce, they win against everybody. He doesn't quite have the recovery speed that other people have. By the way, Terrion has it. But I think he's been a good addition. I think it would be nice if he got a little bit more closer in coverage more often. but I'm not gonna dog the guy. I think he's played well. Learning a new defense with all new people around him, with new safeties behind him, that are Brian Branch playing in a different position than he has before. All things being equal, I think he's done very well. I think he can do better. I would still like to see him do a little bit better job of reading the receiver at the line, which is weird because it's a veteran thing, but I feel like he could. I feel like there's room for growth there in Carlton. So, with that, thanks, guys. We might do something a little bit next week. I will be out next week. I won't be able to do anything with Chris, so I might try to do another video at that time. But thank you so much for liking and subscribing to our channel, the Detroit Lions Podcast. This is Jeff Risdon from Lions Wire. I'm out. Enjoy your week.